It's not often that you get to sit with a Prime Minister and discuss issues of national interest, but tonight is my pleasure, and we've had Dr. Kenny Anthony in for the last hour doing just that, and he continues to be with us. In a moment, we'll be taking your calls, so please stay close to your telephones. Remember to keep your calls short so that somebody else can have a chance to make a contribution. Now, talking a little bit more about regional developments, CARICOM seems to have this major challenge of implementing decisions made by the heads of government. Right. There seems to be a major disconnect between the public services in the CARICOM states and the heads making those decisions. Why is that the case?
Well, you know, that issue was recently assessed by a team of consultants, and they confirmed the disconnect that you speak about, disconnect between the Secretariat and the broader community, and between government, the Secretariat, and the communities that both of them serve. So it is a real problem. In the past, I have found that some of the major opponents of government decisions have in fact been regional civil servants. They do not sometimes implement the decisions with commitment. They sometimes do not believe in the efficacy of the decisions or in the wisdom of the decisions. And sometimes, of course, they will behave exactly as they have behaved for years, that they're simply public officers implementing decision-making at their leisure and pleasure. So it's a complex range of issues. But I think part of the problem has to do with lack of preparation. Quite often, you go to CARICOM meetings, and there is no preliminary discussion of the issues to be determined or resolved at the CARICOM level. So quite often, again, the decisions come as a surprise, and the decisions are imposed on the public services without any prior knowledge. They come fait accompli to be imposed. Now, we need to resolve that, because basically we have to bring them on board and create sufficient sympathy for the implementation of those decisions.
Yes.
I think that is really one of the key problems, one of the key issues, that heads of government tend to be very remote. And sometimes they are discussing issues that the Caribbean public is totally unaware of, and they're taken by surprise at the end of the day. That should not happen. I am one of those prime ministers who believe that we have to widen the CARICOM discourse. And you know, I have said repeatedly, for example, that we need to bring opposition parties in the region into the framework of decision making, into the framework of information, meaning that it is critical and crucial that we win sympathy. And I think you saw the dangers and the problems with an absence of information. In the last 5 years, a number of new governments were elected throughout the region. And once they got in, they did not pursue the CARICOM agenda with any passion, with any sense of purpose. They looked inwards. They became preoccupied with their own domestic issues. And the result was that the CARICOM agenda was simply pushed aside in a period when we really needed that agenda because of the economic crisis that we faced. And had we created a situation where opposition parties were informed about decision-making within CARICOM, we might have created an environment of sympathy and understanding. So that's a big issue. So we need to widen the discourse on CARICOM.
And do you think that this can happen in the short term? Or very soon from now?
It's a process, but I would hope that we would do more of that. I think the OCS has learned from that experience, and what the OCS is seeking to do is to create a framework of dialogue with opposition parties, particularly with the establishment of their own parliamentary discussions, because they're creating an assembly of OECS parliamentarians. And in order to do that properly, I think we will have to engage opposition parties throughout the region.
Sounds good. in terms of reforms, can that happen, or can that only happen through major reforms of CARICOM as it presently stands?
Oh yeah, and I would urge you to take a look at the report of the consultants. In fact, I think the heads have understood this, that they need to undertake urgent reforms at the CARICOM level, and so much so that the Secretary General of CARICOM was mandated to appoint someone or an entity to guide the reform process at CARICOM itself. But the heads also need to make decisions, because I think we have to reform the process of decision making at the level of the heads of government, the Conference of Heads of Government. I mean, I was a little startled that when I attended the conference in Suriname, it is true there was less pomp, less ceremony. For example, the speeches made by an incoming head were done away with. I was invited to make a speech, for example. So I saw nothing wrong with that. I live with that. For me, that was not a big requirement. But at the same time, the manner in which we make decisions on issues continued unchanged. So, for example, we got a lot of paper. We got a lot of issues before us, issues which really should have been disposed of by our ministers at lower levels.
Right.
So the whole culture of decision making must change, and must change very quickly. Otherwise, we're going to become very irrelevant very quickly.
Interesting. Now let's look internally.
Sure.
More internal stuff. Looking at your blueprint for growth and your slogan, "Better days are coming."
Sure.
Some people are saying that they have not seen the better days, and you know, $100 million promised. The STEP program, yes, is on the way. But some people are still saying, well, they don't feel like they're benefiting. The SLP in opposition during election campaigning promised too much to the electorate, and is now having a little difficulty delivering.
I think if you look at our document, the Blueprint for Growth, you'll notice that it was a document of caution. And if you recall our own speeches on the platforms, we repeatedly said that there'll be challenges, there'll be difficulties. But what we provided was a recipe to address the difficulties and challenges that you face. There will always be political detractors. We must accept this as just an inevitable aspect of our democracy. That,
yes.
That there are going to be those who are going to say, well, where are the better days, and so on. And I even heard of a case, a friend of mine was telling me that he went into a supermarket and some lady was complaining, where are the better days, the prices are still high, and the friend retorted, Magwe, se una just electe pour simen go expecte bagay kai shoshela mem. So you know, you'll get those things, and I say this as part of the humor, the expectation. So we made it very clear that it would be a platform of difficulty. But if you notice, we have begun systematically to implement our proposals. For example, we made the point that we have to lighten the burden of our business sector, that we have to create a new environment, we have to give them breathing space. And some of the breathing space of which I speak will be addressed in the budget presentation, so you'll get a sense of where we want to go and the new policies that we're going to introduce. Already, we have implemented one major policy. We did say that there would be a tax amnesty. We would do away with both penalties and interest on taxes. We have done so. And the good thing is that I understand a lot of citizens are lining up at the Inland Revenue and are making use of that opportunity, because it's unique, it's rare. It's not often that you get an opportunity like this. Usually in the past, what was waived was the penalties, but not the interest. So we are doing that. So we have begun that process. And yes, you're right about STEP. STEP has been a tremendous success, because on average we are employing about 2,300 persons every time we have had STEP. And this, I think, is the third cycle of STEP, which would mean that at least 6,900 individuals throughout the length and breadth of the country would have had the opportunity to earn a small income. It's not a lot of money, It's not a lot of money, but it means a lot to these individuals who have been deprived of an income for years. So that has happened. So I think you will see a graduated process of implementation of the policies and promises of the St. Lucia Labour Party, because I intend to be faithful to those promises. We will unveil the unemployment program during the budget. Obviously, there's going to be a problem of capacity of implementation, but we will unveil that program, and I will give details of precisely how it will be implemented and how far we will be able to go in this budget cycle, meaning this financial year. So all of that will be dealt with in the budget, as I've always indicated.
Now, a quick one. Sorry. Go ahead.
Our approach has been basically, we have said this, that we need to alleviate the plight of ordinary St. Lucians while we try to address the larger problems of investment. There are good signs on the horizon. There is renewed interest in St. Lucia. We have to clean up some aspects of our procedures here. We have to improve on the quality of decision making. And one of the things we did was to appoint a committee to advise us on the ease of doing business. And there are some proposals which will be announced in the budget in that regard. And let me mention very quickly, maybe it has not even been recognized. Interestingly, you were hearing on the news about the plight of the Almond Resorts hotels in Barbados. And they're now on the block, meaning that they are for sale. So there was a news item that Sanders had examined one of the properties to determine whether they would purchase that property. Here in St. Lucia, the Almond property was disposed of. We've had a new buyer. He's come in. He's already started operations. He's taken over the hotel, and it was done very smoothly. The workers were retained. The hotel is operating now. The hotel is being refinanced and recapitalized. Likewise, we've had one other hotel in the north, I think, in the Rodney Bay area. This was purchased by Harry Quinn. They have just rebranded it. They have reopened. These are important signs of the confidence that investors have in this country. And what's going to drive this country? It's confidence. Confidence in the integrity of St. Lucia, in the integrity of St. Lucians, confidence that investors would not be disadvantaged, confidence that there would be no discrimination against investors, confidence that investors can work with the people of St. Lucia. Not easy in this environment, but I think we have made some important steps, and I'm very pleased at what is slowly taking root in the country.
Now there was some speculation, rumors, that very quickly, that the government had taken over Almond Morgan Bay, or purchased Almond Morgan Bay and Village Inn and Spa.
No. They have their private owners. Yeah.
Okay.
Harley Quinn for Village Inn, and a group out of Antigua, Rob Barrett, who had operated a hotel previously. He's back. He's purchased it, and he's now the full-time operator.
Great. Promise you, when we come back, we'll be taking your calls. Stay tuned. Newsmaker Live with Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony will continue right after this short break.